The hour of convening having arrived, all members of the House will please report to the floor and take seats. All members of the House will please report to the floor. Clerk will ring the bell. We are about to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Would someone vote Representative Gilliard's? Thank you. Have all members now voted? Representative Hogan, that might have been a first. Not sure how the clerk's office would interpret a red vote on roll call. That you were not here, or you were here, or you were here and didn't want to be here, or how that would go. Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. Well, good morning. And happy Valentine's Day. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. We will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 162nd House District, Representative Carl Gilliard. Representative Gilliard.
Mr. Speaker, my brothers and sisters, good morning. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm elated to be here on today because I can honestly say we all need prayer. Can I get a witness? And on today, I'm elated that we as leaders have to have individuals that pray for us and cover us and keep us. And in Savannah, Georgia, I am elated that there is a friend to the city who covers the city. He is a police chaplain. He is indulged in our community with the resources of his ministry, that he doesn't just talk the talk with just the actions of the Word of God, but he has many programs that are empowering people in our community. And so what better way to serve God than to serve him in spirit and in truth? Today we have the pastor of Kingdom Life Fellowship Church on today, and this is a great opportunity for Dr. Charles P. Roberson Sr. to come and to bless us. He's joined here with his co-pastor and his beautiful wife. Mrs. Roberson is here. Their daughter, a great relative and friend that is with him, one of his sisters, and also other family members and members of Kingdom Life that are up here, and you're up here in the balcony. Would you stand with us on today? I would present to you on today for a good opportunity to lift your hands in adoration and receive the word of God from Dr. Charles P. Roberson Sr. Will you welcome him?
Good morning. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Representative Carl Gilliard, thank you for the invite. And I join them in saying Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. What a great privilege it is this morning for me to bring you greetings from Georgia's oldest city, Savannah, Georgia. It's an honor for me to be here today with my lovely wife of 28 years who is spending Valentine's Day with me here with you. And I'm very thankful that she's with me. My youngest daughter, Shanna, is here, and my sister, Gwen, and also Michelle is with me. And many, as Representative Gilliard said, from my church is also here as well. I want you to know it's an honor for me to be here today, and that this is a long way from 2211 East Hanson Street in East Savannah, where I grew up. Well, my parents, Willie and Mary Robeson, always taught me to put my best foot forward. I never thought I'd get to speak to such an important group of people as you, and I'm very thankful and I'm very humble today. Actually, today for me is what I call a defining moment. And I want to talk to you this morning about that, a defining moment. There's a scripture that I've been thinking about that I think is appropriate this morning. It's Micah chapter 6 in verse 8. Many of you know that scripture. It says, "He has showed thee, O man of God, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God." You see, a defining moment is a moment in our lives that defines everything else that follows. And I believe the 2018 legislative session for all of you and all of us is a defining moment. These moments happen all the time, and sometimes we're unaware of them when they're happening. I want to take you on a journey this morning. I want to take you on a journey to the very first time you ever walked in this building. The very first time you ever put your name tag on, the very first time you ever sat to your desk. And I want you to think about what was in your mind and what was in your heart that day. Probably sometime that day you thought about the fact that God has sent you here for a very important task that must be done. I'm sure you asked the question, Lord, why have you allowed me to be here? And what legacy will I leave behind? You see, the mission is clear for you today, and that mission is to bring glory to God, to always put others before self, to work every day to make sure that the more than 10 million people all over Georgia can have faith in this great body, that you're going to be governed by these principles that we learn in the Word of God, which is to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. You see, all over Georgia today is a defining moment for someone. Someone in Georgia today is getting married, someone is having a baby, someone has lost a loved one, and all of these are defining moments. In Americas, Athens, Augusta, Albany, Brunswick, Columbus, Macon, Rome, and Valdosta, there are defining moments happening all around us. Someone's asking today if the cancer will go in remission. Another person is asking if their child will come home from the hospital. Someone's asking if their marriage will be healed. A mother's asking in Savannah if she can be healed from losing a 12-year-old. And another mother is getting over having to visit a 15-year-old in jail. And all of these are defining moments. And all of Georgia's citizens, all of us look to you with the question, will you do justice? But will you also love mercy? And will you walk humbly before God? You see, God reminds us in every generation when there's a problem, he raises up leadership. When the ground needed to be tilled, God raised up Adam. When the ark needed to be built, God raised up Noah. When faith was needed, God raised up Abraham. When people needed to be brought from Egypt, God raised up Moses. When the priest needed to be born, God raised up Hannah. When the wall needed to come down, he raised up Joshua. When the giant needed to be killed, he raised up David. When patience needed to be demonstrated, he raised up Job. When it was time for Jesus to be born, he raised up Mary. When the world needed to be saved, he chose Jesus. And when the state of Georgia needed direction, God raised up the 2018 legislative session. And he's asking you as his leaders today, if you will do justice, if you will love mercy, and if you will walk humbly. I've come this morning to encourage each one of you to continue the good work that you are doing. Continue to practice justice, but also love mercy and walk humbly. And every day when you walk into this Capitol and when you sit at your desk, always remember that all men are created equal. And whether you live in a gated community in Atlanta, whether you are a member of Augusta National, whether you run a pecan farm in Americus, whether you are a single mother in Waycross or a student in Savannah entering their freshman year, whether you're a homeless person in Columbus sleeping on the street, all of us in Georgia look to this body for leadership and direction. In conclusion, sometimes your decisions are going to be tough. There are many times in this body that you're going to argue between what your head thinks and what your heart feels. I would recommend that you do justice, but you also love mercy and you walk with humility. You see, some decisions are justice decisions. Other decisions are merciful decisions. And some decisions simply help us model humility. Speaking of justice, in the Bible, a lawyer asked Jesus an important question. How does a man get eternal life? Jesus simply replied and said, love God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Do that and you have eternal life. But you know how lawyers are. One question is never enough. So he asked Jesus another question. Jesus, who is my neighbor? Jesus tells a story of a man who's on the Jericho road and he falls among thieves and they strip him and they wound him and they leave him half dead. A priest passes by on the other side. A Levite walks by on the other side. But a good Samaritan, he stops. A good citizen stops. A good legislator stops. He puts bandages on his wounds. He cares for him. He puts him on his beast. He takes him to a hotel. He checks him in and he says to the innkeeper, if he orders any room service, I'll pay for it when I get back. Jesus said to this lawyer, who do you think was a good neighbor? And he said, I guess the Good Samaritan. Jesus says, yes, now you go and do likely, for you have the right answer. You see, today, my friends, the right answer to violence is peace. The right answer to arrogance is humility. The right answer to secrecy is transparency. The right answer to prejudice is fairness. The right answer to despair is hope. The right answer to sin is righteousness. The right answer to selfishness is generosity. The right answer to evil is good. The right answer to hatred is love. And the right answer to all of man's problems is the cross of Calvary and good leadership. Do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. Let us pray. If my people, which are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive their sins and heal their land. So, Lord, today we thank you in this sacred house for your love and for your grace. And we thank you for sending your son, Jesus, to save us. We ask your blessings today upon all of our state legislators and upon all who walk into the doors of this building. Heavenly Father, today we lift up the state of Georgia and we celebrate Georgia today. We decree and declare that the Spirit of God has access to the heart of our state and all of our governmental leaders. We're thankful today that we live in a godly state, a righteous state, a state where the name of the Lord is honored and respected. Lord, we thank you today that evil influences are broken over our state and that godly leaders will continue to govern so that the people may rejoice. Heavenly Father, we thank you that inequality, bigotry, oppression, bias, hate, that they have been permanently removed from our state, and that poverty, hard times, violence, lack of opportunity, and darkness will end, and that the quality of life in Georgia will improve for everyone. We celebrate this season of renewal and transformation in Georgia, that the entire state would experience revival. We declare that all over Georgia, change is happening. Souls are being saved. Relationships are being mended. Lives are being restored. Communities are being blessed. And that the good news of the gospel is being declared and that your will is done. We celebrate our state today. We celebrate this great house. And we give you honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. Now I ask that you would join me as we pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That was wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. The chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits has reviewed the proceedings of the previous legislative day and found them to be correct.
Chairman Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, 159th moves following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Report of standing committees. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 920 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th Reeves to the 34th, Willard to the 51st, Oliver the 82nd, Nimmer the 178th. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 8 and Title 19, the official code of Georgia annotated relating the general provisions for adoption.
Judiciary.
House Bill 921 by Representative Lumsden to the 12th, Dempsey to the 13th, and Coomer the 14th. Bill being titled an act to authorize the governing authority of the city of Cave Springs to levy an excise
Intergovernmental
tax.
coordination.
House Bill 922 by Representative Carpenter the 4th, Blackman of the 146th, Tarvin of the 2nd, Raffensperger the 50th, and Hill of the 3rd. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 2 and Title 20 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to elementary and secondary education.
Judiciary.
House Bill 923 by Representative McCall the 33rd, Rhodes of the 120th, Gravely the 67th, Collins the 68th, Turner of the 21st, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 27-3-9 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to unlawful enticement of game.
Game, fish, and parks.
House Bill 924 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th, Rogers of the 10th, Abstration of the 104th. The bill be titled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 82, Title 36, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to revenue bonds.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 925 by Representative Williams, the 168th, Hogan of the 179th, McCowan of the 138th, Smyrie of the 135th, Hughley of the 136th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 16 to Title 15 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding sheriffs.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 926 by Representative Beskin of the 54th, Belton of the 112th, Stovall of the 74th, Chandler of the 105th, Clark of the 98th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 16 to Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to student health.
Education.
House Bill 927 by Representatives Nimmer of the 178th, Dempsey of the 13th, Oliver of the 82nd, Laricchia of the 169th, Houston of the 170th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to dependency.
Juvenile Justice.
House Bill 928 by Representative Williams of the 145th, Jaspers of the 11th, Chandler of the 105th, Mathiak of the 73rd, Gardner of the 57th. Bill be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-2-519.2 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to eligibility requirements for Hope Scholarship.
Higher Education.
House Bill 929 by Representative Abstration of the 104th, Powell of the 171st, Burns of the 159th. Bill being entitled an act to amend Article 4, Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to water and sewer projects.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 930 by Representative Tanner of the 9th, Smyrie of the 135th, Coomer of the 14th, Shaw of the 176th, Oliver of the 82nd, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Chapter 80 of Title 36, Title 48, and Chapter 32 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to provisions applicable to counties and municipal corporations.
Transportation.
House Bill 931 by Representative Cannon of the 58th, Dreyer of the 59th, Shannon of the 84th, Drenner of the 85th, and Beasley Teague of the 65th. Bill being entitled an act to amend Code Section 16-5-2 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to voluntary manslaughter.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Resolution 1137 by Representative Deffenbaugh the 1st, Hitchens of the 161st, Tarvin of the 2nd, Hill of the 3rd, Caldwell of the 131st, and others. A resolution urging the United States Congress and the President of the United States to support the members of the armed forces.
Special Rules.
House Resolution 1138 by Representative Williams of the 168th, Hogan of the 179th, McGowan of the 138th, Smyrie of the 135th, and Hughley of the 136th, and others. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so to provide that the proceeds of excise taxes on the sales of contact lenses.
Ways and Means.
House Resolution 1159 by Representative Hill of the 3rd, a resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Risks associated with Crantom.
Special Rules.
House Resolution 1160 by Representative Hill of the 3rd, a resolution creating the House Study Committee on Risks associated with Crantom.
Special Rules.
Senate Bill 17 by Senators Honorman of the 45th, Miller of the 49th, Ginn of the 47th, Mullis of the 53rd, Beach of the 21st, and others. A bill be entitled Act to amend Title 3 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to alcoholic beverages.
Regulated Industries.
Senate Bill 332 by Senator Harper of the 7th, Heath of the 31st, Brass of the 28th, Ginn of the 47th, Burke of the 11th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to hunting, trapping, and fishing.
Game, Fish, and Parks.
Senate Bill 342 by Senator Harbin of the 16th, Albers of the 56th, Watson of the 1st, Thompson of the 14th, and Brass of the 28th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to registration and licensing of motor vehicles.
Motor Vehicles.
Senate Bill 378 by Senator Albers of the 56th, Hofstetler of the 52nd, Dugan of the 30th, Hill of the 4th, Schaefer of the 48th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 28 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to fiscal bills generally.
Ways and Means.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 898 by Representative Powell of the 32nd, a bill relating to registration and licensing of motor vehicles. House Bill 899 by Representative Laricchia of the 169th, a bill relating to contracts for public works and public works bidding. House Bill 900 by Representative Caldwell of the 131st, a bill relating to contracts for public works and public bidding. House Bill 900 by Representative Caldwell of the 131st, a bill to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of Lamar County. House Bill 901 by Representative Hatchett of the 150th, a bill to amend an act incorporate the city of Adrian. House Bill 902 by Representative Earhart of the 36th, a bill relating to banking and finance. House Bill 903 by Representative Maxwell of the 17th, a bill relating to post-retirement benefit adjustments under the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia. House Bill 904 by Representative Hanson of the 80th, a bill relating to certain liability not limited. House Bill 905 by Representative Clark of the 98th, the bill relating to other educational programs under the Quality Basic Education Act. House Bill 906 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th, a bill relating to inspection of public records. House Bill 907 by Representative Fleming of the 121st, a bill relating to vacation of office. House Bill 908 by Representative Dickey of the 140th, a bill relating to elementary and secondary education. House Bill 909 by Representative Silcox of the 52nd, a bill relating to the Department of Public Health. House Bill 910 by Representative Rakestraw of the 19th, a bill relating to invasion of privacy. House Bill 911 by Representative Knight of the 130th, a bill to amend an act to provide a new charter for the City of Griffin. House Bill 912 by Representative Knight of the 130th, a bill to amend an act creating a state court of Spalding County. House Bill 913 by Representative Lott of the 122nd, a bill relating to general provisions regarding the Department of Public Safety. House Bill 914 by Representative Parsons of the 44th, a bill relating to definitions relative to set-off debt collection. House Bill 915 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th, a bill relating to professions and businesses. House Bill 916 by Representative Wallace of the 119th, a bill relating to insurance. House Bill 917 by Representative Dollar of the 45th, a bill relating to reproduction of recorded material, transfer, sale, distribution, circulation, civil forfeiture, and restitution. House Bill 918 by Representative F. Stration of the 104th, bill relating to revenue and taxation. House Bill 919 by Representative Watson of the 172nd, a bill relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes. House Resolution 1103 by Representative Green of the 151st, resolution authorizing the conveyance of certain state-owned real property. House Resolution 1104 by Representative Green of the 151st, a resolution authorizing the granting of non-exclusive easements. House Resolution 1105 by Representative Houston of the 170th, resolution honoring the life of Mr. Walter James Gaskins, dedicating a road in his memory. House Resolution 1106 by Representative Green of the 151st, a resolution recognizing the United States military Purple Heart recipients, dedicating a portion of a highway in their honor. House Resolution 1107 by Representative Spencer of the 180th, resolution urging the Department of Economic Development Center for Aerospace Innovations and its Aerospace Defense and Advanced Manufacturing team, along with the Department of Transportation and other relevant state agencies, to collectively work to construct, enhance, focus, and recruit the emerging commercial space industry in Georgia. Senate Bill 31 by Senator McCune of the 29th, a bill relating to the Department of Community Health. Senate Bill 315 by Senator Thompson of the 14th, a bill relating to computer crimes. Senate Bill 353 by Senator Anderson of the 24th, a bill relating to regulation of boilers and pressure vessels. Senate Bill 370 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th, a bill relating to medical assistance, through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District Chairman of the Committee on Health and Human Services, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Health and Human Services had under consideration the following bills of the House. This instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 161 do pass by substitute. House Bill 473 do pass by substitute. House Bill 769 do pass by substitute. House Bill 895 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District Chairman. Representative Jan Tankersley, the 160th District Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination and Local, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination and Locals had under consideration the following bills of the House and the Senate. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 638 do pass by substitute. House Bill 832 do pass by substitute. House Bill 839 do pass. House Bill 845 do pass. House Bill 846 do pass. House Bill 864 do pass. House Bill 863 do pass. House Bill 707 do pass by substitute. House Bill 708 do pass by substitute. House Bill 710 do pass by substitute. House Bill 711 do pass by substitute. House Bill 712 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 317 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Jan Tankersley, the 160th District Chairman. Representative Maxwell, the 17th District Chairman of the Committee on Regulated Industries, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Regulated Industries had under consideration the following bills of the House. It instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 826 do pass by substitute. House Bill 835 do pass. House Bill 833 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Maxwell, the 17th District Chairman.
We are about to go on to the local calendar. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. There are 7 bills on the local calendar which relate to homestead exemption and require a recorded 2/3 roll call vote for passage. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. For what purpose does Representative Douglas rise?
Speaker, I'd like to make a motion.
State your motion.
I would like to make a motion that House Bill 638 be pulled off the local calendar and voted on separately.
What number was that?
House Bill 638.
The gentleman has, Mr. Clerk, read the caption.
House Bill 638 by substitute by Representative Rutledge of the 109th City of Stockbridge. This bill revises the corporate boundaries of the City of Stockbridge.
The gentleman has moved that House Bill 638 be removed from the local calendar and voted separately. State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, that I serve on the Intergovernmental Committee?
I could not hear your inquiry.
Isn't it true that I serve on the Intergovernmental Committee?
On which committee?
Intragovernmental.
At the moment, that is true. You have a further inquiry?
Yes, sir.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it also true that we both love football?
Absolutely. The gentleman knows what he's talking about.
May I further parliamentary inquiry?
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to let the body know that I respect each and every one of you guys' local legislation, but I represent about 96% of the cities that's being affected today.
All right, the gentleman has moved that House Bill 638 be removed from the local calendar and voted separately. Is there objection? There is objection. Does the gentleman move? Gentleman moves. All those in favor of the motion that House Bill 638 be removed from the local calendar and voted separately will vote aye. All those opposed to the gentleman's motion will vote no. What purpose does the minority leader rise?
Mr. Speaker, I have a separate motion.
All right. Once again, let me announce. All those in favor of the gentleman's motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 55, the nays are 95, and the motion has failed. What purpose does the minority leader rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
Move that Senate Bill 317 be removed from the local calendar and voted upon separately.
Clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 317 by substitute by Senator Albers of the 56th, Fulton County. This bill provides a homestead exemption which has the effect of a valuation freeze from Fulton County School District ad valorem taxes for educational purposes.
The gentleman has moved that Senate Bill 317 be removed from the local calendar and voted separately. For what purpose Does the Speaker Pro Tem rise?
Mr. Speaker, to ask a question. It's on.
We're trying to get the audio.
Yeah.
I think you got it.
Ask a question.
Parliamentary inquiry?
Sir.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the local delegation has worked very, very hard with our local school board?
Get I, if the lady so states, I'm sure she knows exactly what she's stating. What purpose does the minority caucus whip rise?
Parliamentary inquiry,
State your
Mr.
inquiry.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that by removing this bill, it would simply allow members to express their opinion on this bill without adversely affecting the entire calendar?
The lady so states. All right, on the gentleman's motion, is there objection to the gentleman's motion? Is there objection? There is objection. Does the gentleman move? All those in favor of the motion from the minority leader that Senate Bill 317 be removed from the local calendar and voted separately will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 54, the nays are 101, and the motion has failed. The posture we're in is that the printed local calendar you have is still intact, and if there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 638 by substitute by Representative Rutledge of the 109th, City of Stockbridge. House Bill 832 by substitute by Representative Hilton of the 95th, City of Peachtree Corners. House Bill 839 by Representative Glanton of the 75th, Clayton County. House Bill 845 by Representative Gertler of the 8th, City of Young Harris. House Bill 846 by Representative Collins of the 68th, City of Villa Rica. House Bill 864 by Representative Glanton of the 75th, City of Jonesboro. House Bill 863 by Representative Glanton of the 75th, City of Jonesboro. House Bill 707 by substitute by Representative Price of the 48th, City of Roswell. House Bill 708 by substitute by Representative Raffensperger of the 50th, City of Johns Creek. House Bill 710 by substitute by Representative Jones of the 47th, City of Milton. House Bill 711 by substitute by Representative Jones of the 47th, City of Mountain Park. House Bill 712 by substitute by Representative Martin of the 49th, City of Alpharetta. Senate Bill 317 by substitute by Senator Albers of the 56th, Fulton County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local calendar that required a majority vote, the ayes are 107, the nays are 50. So as to those bills requiring a majority vote, those bills have received the requisite constitutional majority. Those measures requiring a 2/3 vote have failed. What purpose does the majority leader rise?
Mr. Speaker, I would move that we reconsider the action taken by this House on the local calendar on the bills that required a 2/3 vote.
So you're serving notice of your intent to ask for reconsideration on the next legislative day. Is that accurate?
That would be more accurate than my motion. Yes, sir.
And that would apply to House Bill 863, House Bill 707, House Bill 708, House Bill 710, House Bill 711, House Bill 712, and Senate Bill 317.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker, that would be my motion.
The gentleman has that right, and we will revisit that motion then on the next legislative day. What purpose does the minority leader rise?
To make a motion
State your motion.
to serve notice for a motion for reconsideration on House Bill 638.
Gentleman has that right, when we will revisit that measure tomorrow on a reconsideration.
The House is moving on to morning orders. The chair recognizes Chairman Taylor, Representative Bonner, and Representative Holcomb for a morning order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Here to honor today a great Georgian. Representative Holcomb and I split the city of Doraville between our districts, and we have a great police chief there who's been there for years. He's also a member of the Georgia National Guard, and being the only Navy guy up here, I'm going to turn it over to the Army guys to talk about it.
Gentlemen will suspend. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is, as Chairman Taylor said, a delight to be able to congratulate Chief King, the police chief of Doraville, on his promotion to Major General in the United States Army in the Georgia National Guard. General King has decades of service to our state and to our nation, and that service includes time in Bosnia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. So General King, we want to congratulate you on your promotion. We want to thank you to your service to the city of Doraville, to the state of Georgia, and to our country. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Bennett for a morning order.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to all in this distinguished body of the House of Representatives of Georgia. I rise today to recognize that today is Lent. Lent is the first day in the Christian calendar as we proceed 40 days toward Easter. Lent is a solemn religious observance in the Christian calendar that begins today and ends approximately 6 weeks later before Easter. The purpose of Lent is the preparation of the believer for Easter through prayer, doing penance, mortifying the flesh, repentance of sins, almsgiving, and self-denial. As we move toward Holy Week, and many Christians commit this time to fasting as well as giving up certain luxuries in order to replicate the sacrifice of Jesus Christ's journey in the desert for 40 days. I'd like to also congratulate each and every one of us and wish you a most prosperous and happy Lenten season. Secondly, I rise. On yesterday, we had approximately 350 physical therapists from all over the state of Georgia come to your state capitol. On your desks were these wonderful umbrellas to protect us from the rain. So again, from the Physical Therapy Association of Georgia to each and every one of you, thank you for what you do in preserving the profession of physical therapy. Thank you. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Epps for a morning order. Chairman Epps.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I ask you to join me in welcoming the Blakely County FCCLA group. They're on my left to your right, visiting us today. They're accompanied by their advisor, Ms. Parks. We want to welcome them to the state capitol. and their keen interest in state government. If you will rise, we want to extend to you a sincere welcome. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Silcox for morning order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This morning I want to recognize and commend a wonderful group on a new event in our community. There's a new event that's going to take place this evening on both campuses of Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, both the Scottish Rite and the Eggleston campuses. We are encouraging members of the community to come out and bring a flashlight or their cell phone and shine those lights into the windows of the hospitals where the children are, just to let those children know that we are thinking of them, that they are not forgotten on Valentine's Day, that even though they can't be at school with their classmates or with family or friends on Valentine's, that they are loved and appreciated. And we have some special guests here from Children's Healthcare, Cindy Beeman, who is the brainchild of the event, Deborah Jones, Melanie Turner, and Ansley Johnson. Welcome to the People's House, and please give a round of applause for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta.
Chair recognizes Representative Williams of the 177th for a morning order. (187th).
Happy Valentine's Day. I will highlight the person today I will highlight for Black History is the late Horace Julian Bunn, born on January the 14th, 1940 in Nashville, Tennessee, was the president of the SCLC, in which I too was a member. A swimmer at Morehouse College. I was his armor bearer when he came to St. Petersburg, Florida to speak to the community, along with the late Judge B. Sanderlin, Lonnie Donaldson, and Charles Fullwood. He was elected to the Georgia House of Representatives in 1965 with several other blacks. He was denied his seating because of his opposition to the Vietnam War. He sit in number 126, in which I have been in for 14 years. May your spirit live forever, my friend. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes for a morning order Chairman Green, Chairman Reinders, and others.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am honored, and this group is honored to have this morning the Locate South Georgia Leads group here. And they are to my left, and if they will stand up and be recognized, please give them a warm welcome to our state capitol this morning. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job, y'all.
Good job.
Chair recognizes Representative Scott for a morning order. Chair recognizes Representative Ridley for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning I rise in honor of the unsung heroes. I think today is a proper day to do that. We're all down here for 40 days and 40 nights, but everybody forgets about the real heroes at home is our wives and our spouses that continue on every day with our children and helping them with homework and all that. And I just wanted to say today, Happy Valentine's to my wife, Andrea. That's right, Mr. Speaker, I'm probably in the doghouse. That's the reason I'm up here. But anyway, Happy Valentine's to everybody, and Happy Valentine's to her. As y'all may not believe, I might give her a hard time every once in a while. Thank y'all.
Chair recognizes Chairman Willard for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sweets for the sweets. All my lady colleagues, you find on your desk today the annual Valentine box of truffles that I've left for you. And this is now 5 years running. It'll be the last year. But I want you to know I'll be remaining on the floor to accept hugs during the session. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Ballinger for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I appreciate everybody who wore red today. It is CASA Day at the Capitol, and we hope you'll join us for lunch at the depot. But I would like to recognize a very special CASA group from my own Cherokee County. If y'all would please rise, and let's all welcome them to the Capitol. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Sheila Jones for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Today is Clark Atlanta University Day here at the state capitol, and they are now in the Senate, so I'm unable to recognize them, but I want to share with you a little about Clark College. Clark College is the home of the Center for Cancer Research and Therapeutic Development, and they are the only HBCU member of the Georgia Research Alliance and the nation's largest academic prostate cancer research center. Clark College is the home of Jazz 91.9 FM WCLK in Metro Atlanta. And we have visiting today Clark College President Dr. Johnson and his wife, First Lady Johnson, along with some students from Clark Atlanta University. They are Getcho Caldwell, Elijah Harris, and Amanda Poole. Thank you.
House will continue to be at order. We're going on now to recognize some very distinguished guests we have with us today. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 981.
House Resolution 981 by Representative Tanner the Ninth, a resolution recognizing and commending Chief Deputy William Frank Goss as Deputy Coroner of the Year for the Georgia Coroners Association in the state of Georgia and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Kevin Tanner for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand before you with House Resolution 981. Chief Deputy William Frank Goss, the Chief Deputy Coroner for Lumpkin County, this year has been recognized by the state of Georgia as the Coroner of the Year for the Georgia Coroners Association. Last year in one of our communities that I represent, we had the current coroner removed from office by the governor for some legal issues. He appointed Chief Deputy William Frank Goss to step up to the plate, taking over for a very difficult situation. He did an outstanding job. He led with integrity, and he brought pride back to the coroner's office. And then during the election process, we elected a fine man, a retired DeKalb police officer, Jim Shepard, to take over the coroner's office. Frank stepped back into the role as deputy coroner and has done a marvelous job for our community. We're very proud to recognize him today as the Chief Deputy Coroner of the Year, and I'd like to call on our Chief Coroner, our elected coroner, Jim Shepard, to say a few words.
Good morning. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, my name is Jim Shepard. I'm the Lumpkin County Coroner. I'd like to make some introductions real quick. Obviously, this is the Chief Deputy, Frank Goss, his wife, Terry. To Terry's right is my daughter, Anna Grace. And just behind Anna Grace, next to Representative Tanner, is my Valentine, my bride, Rhonda Shepard. Representative Tanner, thank you for your willingness to honor Deputy Goss in this manner. We appreciate your support and the support of this body. This body allows us to continue the good work that we do as coroners in the state of Georgia. Provided that this kind of work that we do, it allows us to continue the exemplary service that we provide our constituents. Thank you. Frank?
This is such an honor to be recognized by the floor with this proclamation. Being a deputy coroner, of course, a lot of people don't realize this, but we step into the families' homes at the darkest hours of their lives. This gives me an opportunity to give a kind word to a grieving family and to reassure them that God will give them strength to get through these darkest hours and darkest days of their life when they lose a loved one, as all of us has experienced that. So I would like to thank Mr. Jim Shepard, Coroner, Representative Kevin Tanner, Representative Stephen Gooch, for allowing me to be here today. And I hope to continue to serve the people of Lumpkin County as I have in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good to have you with us.
Yes, sir. Good to have y'all.
Thank you.
For having
Good luck. Thank you. Holly. We ready to get Diane up here? Yeah. Okay. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1050.
House Resolution 1050 by Representative Ralston of the 7th, a resolution recognizing and commending Diane Scoggins on the occasion of her retirement and for other purposes.
If I could have your attention for just a moment, please. Chairman Ballinger led us in recognition of CASA Day a few minutes ago, which I thought was very appropriate, and I've seen many CASA volunteers out in the halls of the Capitol. So it gives me a great personal sense of joy, and it's a real honor to recognize one of the true great ones in CASA work in all of Georgia, who just happens to live in the 7th House District and just happens to be a friend of mine, as is all of her family. Diane Scoggins is retiring this year after 22 years as CASA director in our judicial circuit. And let me tell you a little bit about how far she brought the program. When she started in 1996, she started with 2 CASA volunteers serving 3 counties. When she left this year, she has 115 volunteers and 15 more in training. So she has really provided great leadership. CASA has been able to respond to all of the challenges that the opioid crisis has brought to our area, and she has served with enthusiasm, with integrity, and has really made a mark on CASA, not just in North Georgia, but all over the state. She is joined up on the podium today by her husband, J.R., by her daughter, Kimberly, her grandson, Wheeler, and her son, Russ, as well as our juvenile court judge, Judge Jan Wheeler, the only lawyer that I could never beat in the courtroom when she was a prosecutor. But I am happy to be here today to commend Diane Scoggins on this occasion and present her with this resolution on CASA Day. Diane Scoggins.
Thank you very much, and it's such an honor to be in the People's House, and I appreciate our speaker, David Ralston, and what he means to me and my family and our judicial circuit in his district. I do want to add one little thing. I wouldn't have been the CASA director in the Appalachian Judicial Circuit had it not been for one of your very own here in the House, and that's your House Clerk, Bill Riley, who actually hired me and had enough confidence in me, Bill, and I thank you for that, because it has been a great honor to serve the children that are in foster care. I appreciate, especially on Valentine's Day, that we could have CASA Day at the Capitol here, and I appreciate the love that you have for our children in the state. The s'mores on your desk are from our CASA folks and made at Miss Sears Orchard in Blue Ridge, Georgia. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, and it's just a great honor. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Coleman to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very special day today for me to introduce our doctor. This is the 10th year in a row that Dr. Indra Krishna has been here as our Doctor of the Day. So I am declaring, and I have a resolution here to prove it, today, Dr. Indra Krishna Day in Georgia. Dr. Krishna, he is a gastroenterologist from Lawrenceville. He holds a dual degree faculty position as clinical professor at Emory University School of Medicine and the Philadelphia College of Orthopedics Medicine, Georgia campus. This is his 10th year here. We're very glad to have him here. He's a graduate of Leadership Gwinnett of Georgia. He's Leadership Academy of MAG. He served as president and currently on the board of directors of the Georgia Gastroenterological and Endoscopic Society and Georgia Association of Physicians of Indian Heritage. He serves on a lot of boards here in this state, but I think what is most important is that he's very, very involved in colorectal cancer and looking for a cure. He heads up the fundraising. He's done a fantastic and astronomical job of raising money, raising awareness, and trying to cure this country of colon cancer. It's my pleasure at this time to introduce, for the 10th year, Georgia Doctor of the Day, Dr. Indra Krishnan. Let's give him a big hand.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me wish you a very happy Valentine's Day, and I'm humbled and honored to receive this recognition. Thank you, Representative Bruce Coleman. I'm not sure whether I deserve this recognition, but certainly I'm not going to say no to this. I'll take it. I'll take it for any time. And my very simple Valentine's Day message to you all is, please take care of your health. Very important. Why? Because of you, we in Georgia in a better shape in all the aspects, including economy, health, and education, etc., etc. We want you to come back in 2019 again and serve us and make this state better and better. So for you all to serve us, you should be in good health. So please go and check your physicals and do your cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, your cancer screening, everything with your family doctor, not just going there for sickness. That is my only request, and please do it yourself. Please do it this, not for yourself, just for your family and for us. We depend on you. We are very proud of you. And again, I am very humble for this recognition. Thank you. God bless. Thank you. I enjoyed a picture in Washington, D.C. with President, daughter-in-law, everybody.
Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 986.
House Resolution 986 by Representative Cooper, the 43rd Hatch to the 150th, Price to the 48th, Silcox to the 52nd, and Beskin to the 54th. A resolution proclaiming February 14, 2018 as Georgia Stop the Bleed Day at the state capitol and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cooper for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I hope you'll listen up because once again, this is not about vaccines, but it's about a very important issue. If you remember the shooting that went on in Washington, there were not first responders there immediately. What they had to do was the representatives had to take care of each other. And you know, we could be in the same situation. And a lot of people don't understand that you can die very quickly from bleeding. And if you know how to stop it, it can be very simple and a life can be saved. So it's my pleasure today to welcome 5 surgeons from across our state representing the Georgia Society of American College of Surgeons, the Georgia Trauma Foundation, the Georgia Committee on Trauma, and the Georgia Trauma Commission. With me, I have Dr. Ashley standing right beside me from Macon, Dr. Thomas Rees of Carrollton, Dr. Fred Mullins of Augusta, and Dr. John Bleacher of Atlanta. And Dr. James Dunn of Savannah. They are here with about 100 other trauma advocates and team members, and they're here to teach us how to stop the bleed. And between 1 and 4 this afternoon in the south part of the Capitol, downstairs on the 2nd floor, they will be training you in case you ever need to help a colleague and try to save their life. It's very simple. It just takes a few minutes, and I hope that you will get your staff also to take the training and therefore be ready to help each of us if the occasion ever arises. And they have a little gift for us. Dr. Ashley has brought us okay, Dr. Ashley, tell them what you brought quickly.
Last year we installed kits in the 3 areas in the Capitol, out in the foyer or the hallway. This year we have a kit for the Senate as well as for the House chamber, and this will be right at your side if you have a bleeding issue in the Capitol here, where you can use these kits, these bleeding kits, tourniquets, and gauze to stop the bleed and take care of each other until the paramedics can get here. So on behalf of all those folks that Representative Cooper announced, thank you, and for your support. You allow us to be able to do these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We are going on to the rules calendar. We are going on to the rules calendar. The clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 158.
House Resolution 158 by Representative Paul, the 171st, and others, proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to authorize the General Assembly to provide by general law for the dedication of revenues derived from fees or taxes to the public purposes for which such fees or taxes were imposed. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Jay Powell, to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring you House Resolution 158. This is a proposed constitutional amendment, and it addresses an issue I think that many of you have had concerns with over the years, and that's the issue of dedicated fees and the redirection of dedicated fees to purposes other than that which this body has directed that they be spent. To give you a little bit of history, under the Constitution, we've got two choices. We can either dedicate fees constitutionally, in which event, if they're in the Constitution, they go exactly where they're supposed to go, but we lose flexibility and we lose the ability to change without an additional constitutional amendment, which is a rather cumbersome procedure. Or we can dedicate it statutorily, and under the Constitution that means absolutely nothing. It's just a declaration of intent, but it does not mandate that monies be spent. The most common things that you're probably familiar with is the Solid Waste Trust Fund, which is the dollar tire recycling fee. In the last 10 years, the Solid Waste Trust Fund has obtained approximately $68 million, $24 million of which have been appropriated to recycling and to removing tire dumps, and the other $43 million that were collected were redirected to other purposes. The Hazardous Waste Trust Fund, which is a 75-cent per ton add-on on the tipping fee in landfills, has in the last 10 years collected $158 million, $59 million of which have been appropriated for its intended purpose, and the other $99 million redirected. So it doesn't matter what we do in a statute as far as directing fees. We can say, I mean it, I really mean it, and it doesn't mean anything. The only way that you can constitutionally direct fees for a particular purpose is in the Constitution itself. So it's an all in the Constitution or nothing statutorily. So what this constitutional amendment does, and what H.R. 158 do, is they give us a middle path. They allow us, if this constitutional amendment is passed, to statutorily dedicate fees if we do a certain number of things. Number one, the statute that dedicates the fees has to address the constitutional provision that it's adopted pursuant thereto, has to be passed by 2/3 majority in the House and the Senate and signed by the governor, and there are safeguards so that if we run into situations like we did back in the Great Recession, where it's a question of, what's more important right now? Do we do tire dumps right this second, or do we furlough teachers? We can make that decision because in a fiscal crisis, this legislative body, by a majority vote, can suspend the action for up to 2 years of the dedication. We can further, by amendment, we can redirect fees in a different direction, but it takes 2/3 vote. We can repeal the legislation. And one of the things that this constitutional amendment would provide is that we cannot dedicate more than 1% of the amount that's collected in revenue. What we don't want to do is we don't want to dedicate, and then we don't have the discretion to do what needs to be done in a typical budget year. We do not want to tie the hands of appropriators. So what this does is it allows us the ability to direct fees statutorily. It gives us some safeguards so that if there is a crisis, we can change it. It gives us the ability to impose financial discipline so we don't dedicate every fee that comes through the door by limiting us to 1% of the amount of revenues. And it also provides that any bill that directs fees has a 10-year or less sunset provision so that they don't stay directed forever, that we have to come back and look at them periodically to see whether it's still a good idea. So, Mr. Speaker, that is the crux of what H.R. 158 does. It is a truth in legislation type proposal, because what we do is we tell people we're going to use this money for this purpose, and then it doesn't happen. This allows us a mechanism by which we can put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir, I do.
Chair recognizes Chairman Welch to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I will yield.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the constitutional amendment that you've put before us and that will ultimately go to the voters for their consent. But this is a very tightly written constitutional amendment that does not overly constrain the appropriations process, nor does it also prevent the state from, in times of emergency, financial emergency, from taking the necessary steps in order to use revenues where we need to remain solvent, to move forward with whatever the agenda is for that particular year. Is that not true?
That is true, and I would be remiss if I did not thank my friend for helping me draft it and for being a very good advisor in the process of drafting this legislation. Thank you.
You have additional questions. Do you continue to yield?
Yes, sir, for a few more.
Chair recognizes your co-chairman of the Rural Development Council, Chairman England, to your right.
Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Why do you look so worried?
I'm not looking worried. I'm just anticipating.
Well, is it not true that the gentleman and I have had hours of conversation on this bill?
We have.
And is it not true that you have addressed most, if not all, of my concerns?
All of your concerns.
Most of them.
All of your concerns.
Most of my concerns. I guess if we lawyered it up, you might say most. But anyway, and I do appreciate the time that you've taken to work through and address those concerns as we look at the total amount of money that can be earmarked under the 1%, and then the potential that if we should go back into another recession, that we do have the option to kick out and then pay law enforcement or teachers or whatever the money might be used for at that point in time. I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir, for one more question.
Chair recognizes Chairman Pruitt to your right for a question.
The gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for this legislation, and I know you've worked on it now at least for 2 years, and I know it's a lot of hard work. And isn't it true that my only issue with it that you fixed was actually this emergency fund? And matter of fact, in 2008, isn't it true that we actually had to dip into this when we had a crisis and we didn't have enough money in our rainy day fund, and that was where part of the money came from, and you've left that door open for that to be used in emergency cases?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the well. This is a constitutional amendment. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of House Resolution 158 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of House Resolution 158. The ayes are 166. The nays are 1. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 749.
House Bill 749 by Representative Blackman and the 146th and others to be titled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia annotated relating to the imposition rate computation exemptions from state income tax. This bill item referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Blackman to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, we rise today before you to ask for your consideration on House Bill 749. What it does, and I'm just going to read the bit of code here, but it removes the state tax liability on any income received by a surviving family member that is based on the record of a deceased veteran, and it is in standing with, I think, our long-term support of our active duty and retired military families here in Georgia, and I certainly want to thank the Military Affairs Working Group and other members of this House for supporting this in a bipartisan way. Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to stand for questions if there are any.
You have questions if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I'd be happy to yield.
Let's see. From your fellow Houston Countyan, Representative Clark, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that even though Georgia has had a record of being very strongly in support of our military and the bases in this state, that we are currently one of 9 states on the list that do not address military retirement pay tax exemptions?
I believe the gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Do you further yield?
I do.
And is it not true that this will remove us from that list?
I again believe the gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you further yield?
I will yield for another question. Yes,
Chair
sir.
recognizes Representative Henson to your left for a question.
Thank you. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see if I understand this correctly. If you are retired from the military, you have to be at least 62 years old to have your retirement pay be exempted from Georgia taxes. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. What you say is true.
And if you're between 62 and 65, you have to be permanently or totally disabled to collect. I mean, it's not that you can't be healthy if you're over 62. Between 62 and 65.
I'm not familiar with what you're referring to there, Representative Henson. This does not change. It does add language that includes military retirement. It is already included, but we do not have that currently in code. So that does not change anything with respect to what we have in code currently. And I think you're referring to existing code.
Okay, then I will have to back up and check on the existing code. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I will just ask this body for favorable consideration and yield the well, sir.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 749 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 749. The ayes are 170. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 740.
House Bill 740 by Representative Nix of the 69th and others, to be entitled an act to amend subpart 1A of part 2 of Article 16 to chapter 2 entitled 20. The official code of Georgia annotated relating to improved student learning environment and discipline in elementary and secondary education. This bill item referred to the Committee on Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Nix to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring you House Bill 740. Give you a little bit of background. The way that I came to work on this bill, Representative Wayne Howard had really championed the idea of this bill for several years, and it had not gotten the support that I felt like it should have, and I told him I wanted to work on him to help do this. Give you a couple of key statistics. In the state of Georgia, there are approximately 15,000 students in K through third grade that are assigned out of school suspension every year, 15,000 of that age group. Approximately 2,600 of that group from K through third grade are assigned out of school suspension for 5 or more days. Now, when Representative Howard began to work on this, he was working on a bill that would have made a blanket statement that said that you cannot suspend those children in that grade level. I did not feel comfortable with a flat, you cannot suspend those people. But I did feel comfortable with putting something together that says you cannot suspend them until. And the until is this. We want to make sure that there's not some underlying issue that's causing that behavior. And when I first put the bill together, when Representative Howard worked and I worked on it first, we were going to say that before you can suspend that child for 5 days or more, you must do 3 things. You must screen them for their vision and make sure they can see. You must screen them for hearing and make sure they can hear. And also you must have a screening for their speech language capabilities because that is a very big part of why some of these children act up, is they have no other way to express themselves and they do it through their actions. As we worked on that, we found out there was a problem, and I had a lot of pushback, especially from the speech language pathology folks. The problem is there are not enough of them to go around. I talked to the people with Cobb County, and they said they were 10 people short that they needed in there, and it would be an extreme hardship to try to do that on a per-child screening basis on a short time frame. I had a number of other people come and talk to me, and what they said was, and I think this made the bill better, rather than saying that we must do those specific 3 screenings, there is a program that is called Response to Intervention that is already available in the schools. So we changed our language to say that before you can suspend these children in this K through third grade, that they must be put into this program, and the screening will occur there. This program has a programmed method to do this. It's called Response to Intervention, and it's a multi-tiered system of supports where they will evaluate the child to see if there are these problems that are underneath. Now, once we change to that, we have universal support from the education community. When we had our hearing, there was no one who spoke against the bill. There was one person that spoke that actually wanted to expand it to include some more mental health screenings that we just don't have the capability of doing. I have letters of support on this bill from the Georgia Association of Educational Leaders, the Georgia Partners in Excellence in Education, the Georgia Association of School Nurses, Judge Perry Walker, the juvenile court judge in Douglas County, Judge Michael Key, the juvenile court judge in Troup County. And then I have verbal support and verbal consent. I worked very closely with Cobb County as we developed this. The speech language pathologist, after we had our initial dust up over the fact they couldn't do it like they wanted to, they're very much in support of it. Decal, Gears, Georgia Appleseed, Voices for Georgia Children, and Dr. Eric Lukowski, who is the Assistant Dean of the Medical College of Georgia and is a child and adolescent psychologist. Real quickly, the gist of the bill is before these children can be suspended, they have to be put into the program that we're calling the Response to Intervention. There are some safeguards here. If you look on page 2 of the bill, looking at lines 28 and 29, now this would not apply to a student who brings a weapon, who has drugs at school, other dangerous instruments, or students' behavior that endangers the physical safety of other students or school personnel. So those children that do that would be subject to the suspension. But if they're not, if that's not the case, if they're just being a behavior problem, before we can suspend them, we got to see if we can figure out what the problem is. I believe that this is a good idea. I look at this really as a safety net for some of these children that may be falling through the cracks. Mr. Speaker, that is my presentation of the bill. I think Representative Howard would like to speak to it, but I would be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
You have no questions. I'm sorry. You do have a question. Do you yield?
I'll yield, yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Laricki to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Friendly question. Is it not true that on line 27, after you so passionately explained that there was no difference between 5 or more and no more than 4, everybody was in favor?
Yes, sir, we did have a rather heated exchange in there. You said that my face actually turned red as we discussed that, so I guess it was a heated exchange. But once we got that ironed out, we were good. Thank you.
Thank you. Good bill.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for favorable consideration of everyone, and I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Chair recognizes Representative Howard to speak to the bill.
Oh, here we go. Got 1 minute to go. It'll be noon, so I'll say good morning. I'll change my position here, not on the bill, but in my, I can't get up in the well like I want to, so I thought I'll come in center so everyone could see me, because you don't see this position often. And the reason I come to you today to speak to the bill, to kind of give you a little, first let me give you a little background of where it started. If you remember several years ago, as Representative Nix just mentioned, there was a bill, some of you may have not heard about it, but in the Education Committee, there was a bill called Too Young to Suspend. I found out when I did some research on Too Young to Suspend, talking to Gary McGibbony over in the state board, that 26,000 kids had been expelled or suspended, should I say, from school, K through third grade. And that caught my attention, and I hope it would catch your attention too, because we're talking about 26,000 kids K through third grade being suspended in the state of Georgia. If a kid is not in school, he or she won't learn anything. So that caught my attention, and I dug a little deeper to find out that out of that 26,000, about 80% of those were African Americans. And I talked to Chairman Brooks about that, and he and I began to have some dialogue about how do we keep these kids in school. And as Representative Nix said, my bill would have been a blanket bill saying do not suspend them at all. And I still feel that way, but this is this does head us in the right direction. This moves us into a direction where we begin to try to get a grip on suspending these kids and not sending them home. Now, if the other thought that I had, if a kid is at pre-K to third grade and being suspended often, then there must be an underlying problem. And we needed to dig in to find out what those underlying problems are. And Representative Nix and I must give him credit because he dug in while I was out last year. He, along with Gary McGibbony, Chairman Brooks, and Arian Weldon, they began to craft, and they heard, obviously they felt my heart in the fact that we needed to find a reason not to put these kids out and suspend them, because they agreed with us that when a kid is suspended and sent home for a week or 2 weeks, you know, he or she is just sitting at home, more than likely doing playing games or doing something to probably enjoying themselves, because they may not want to be in school. And we do need them to stay in school because we need to educate them. So I want to thank Representative Nix for his for moving forward, even while I was at a low point in my life, to make this happen and to bring us this bill that we have here today. Now, what I want to give you is some research that I've further gone in and found out. There's research that shows that 3 or more days out of school suspension by a child will, by their sophomore year, that they are 5 times more likely to drop out of school. And that's one of the problems we're having right now. If you look at our dropout rate for kids in middle school and high school, when you look at where these things that we are trying to get a grip on in their beginning of their educational system or life, then we will automatically attack the dropout rates that we are faced with our kids. The economic impact on the dropout rate, according to the Freedmen's Foundation, and the annual public cost is associated with the Georgia's more than 760,000 working age dropouts is about $1.8 billion in annual revenue. So when these kids drop out, it's costing the state even more money. The Alliance of Excellence in Education reports that dropouts from the class of 2008 will cost Georgia almost $15.5 billion in lost wages over their lifetime. That's nearly 10 years of lost revenue that the state has already experienced. So when you vote for this bill, you're voting for more than one reason. We want Georgia to be a place that attracts corporate America more to this state, and see that we have qualified folk moving in direction that our educational system is at a high point, and we're doing good things to make sure our kids don't drop out of school. We're not suspending kids, and we have a grip on the educational system in Georgia. So I come to you, my colleagues, asking you to vote yes on this House Bill 740, that we will minimize and lower the rate of suspensions so that we can lower the rate of dropouts in the state of Georgia. Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 740? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 740 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 740. The ayes are 157, the nays are 13. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 898.
House Resolution 898 by Representative Coleman of the 97th, creating the Joint Study Committee on the establishment of a state accreditation process. This bill having referred to the committee on, this resolution having referred to the Committee on Education. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Education Committee, Chairman Coleman, to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, this resolution I bring before you today is the culmination of House Bill 338 that we passed last year that helped these low-performing schools. In this bill, there were three things that needed to be done. We needed to hire a chief turnaround officer. That chief turnaround officer has been hired and has already identified 10 schools that he's working with. It also required that we create a study committee to look at creating a leadership academy to help provide principals and superintendents for schools. That has been done and is now getting ready to start operating. The third thing it required was a study committee needed to be appointed to look at how we accredit schools in Georgia. As most of you know that have heard the word SAC, Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, is the main accrediting agency. Used to, we had a Georgia accreditation agency that looked at it also. We're finding that we felt that SACS was looking too much at just governance and not enough at accreditation and the curriculum and instruction. So there was a study committee to look at that. All entities, the House, the governor, the other agencies, state board, all appointed their members. The Senate did not appoint their 3 members, so by law, the committee expired on December 1st, and we're not allowed to continue. We're asking that we recreate this joint committee to look at this accreditation and decide and complete this task that we're trying to do. So all this bill does is reestablish the study committee that will start immediately after session and will convene on December the 1st of 2018. Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I yield the well and ask for your favorable vote.
You have no questions. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Resolution 898? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of House Resolution 898. The ayes are 170, the nays are 1. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. For your planning purposes, the chair wants to announce that at the request of the authors, House Bill 767 will be postponed to the next legislative day, and House Bill 302 will be postponed to the next legislative day. The clerk will read the caption to House Bill 190.
House Bill 190 by Representative Hanson of the 80th and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 19 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to marriage generally, so as to change provisions relating to marriage articles. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary. The committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Hanson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring before you House Bill 190, which is a bill that one of our former colleagues and now Judge Regina Quick has worked on for a couple years and is requested by the Family Law Section of the State Bar, of which I am a member. OCGA 19362 governs marriage articles, which are agreements made in contemplation of divorce. OCGA 19363 governs marriage contracts, which are agreements made in contemplation of marriage. The Georgia Supreme Court distinguishes the contracts made in contemplation of marriage versus the contracts made in contemplation of divorce. Contracts made in contemplation of marriage determine property rights during the marriage and after death, and Georgia law requires that these marriage contracts be in writing and attested to by 2 witnesses. Contracts made in contemplation of divorce address issues such as alimony, property division, etc., in the event that the parties divorce. Georgia Code does not require that these contracts be in writing or attested to by witnesses. This bill proposes that we clean that up and make these prenuptial agreements have the same formality as the marriage contracts, and that they be in writing, attested to by at least 2 witnesses, and that one of these witnesses be a notary.
You have no questions.
I ask for your favorable consideration.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 190 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 190. The ayes are 171, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The clerk will read the caption to House Bill 800.
House Bill 800 by Representative Bonner. There's 70 seconds to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 9 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to administration-related workers' compensation so as to change certain provisions relating to the eligibility for appointment as director. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Industry and Labor, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The chair recognizes Representative Bonner to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to bring you House Bill 800. This bill eliminates the offices of Director Emeritus and Administrative Law Judge Emeritus from the State Board of Workers' Compensation. These positions were originally created prior to the state of Georgia providing any type of employee retirement system so that those judges would have some type of retirement benefit. While this is no longer necessary, we can eliminate these positions and reduce the size of government and save the taxpayers an estimated $400,000 to $1 million over the course of time. This would only relate to those that were hired after June 30th of 2018. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will stand for any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 800 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 800. The ayes are 170, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 789.
House Bill 789 by Representative Fleming of the 121st and others to be titled an act to amend Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to labor and industrial relations so as to provide for marketplace contractors to be treated as independent contractors under state and local laws. This bill having referred to the Committee on Industry and Labor, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Fleming to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I apologize in advance, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on the tail end of a cold, so if I have to stop and cough for a second, please forgive me. And whoever follows me on the mic may want to clean it off a little bit. But I'm just trying to give a fair warning. I'm sorry. I'll leave some Purex up here for you too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do bring to you House Bill 789. House Bill 789 is a bill that simply codifies our current independent contractor law in the state of Georgia as it applies to internet platform companies. So what does that mean? As y'all know, quite often down here, we take laws that exist in a bunch of cases, in a bunch of case law that judges have decided, and we codify that case law into a code section where it is more easily read and understood. And I can't emphasize that enough. That's all we're doing here. We're not changing current Georgia law. We're simply codifying it. Now, why are we doing that for internet platform companies? The reason is because, as you know, the service industry now, with the rise of Uber and other companies that have an app on the phone that you hit and they come do something for you, is growing. And we want to encourage these companies to come to the state of Georgia. That distinction between an employee and an independent contractor are particularly important in our law for those type companies. The company that I'm familiar with that has asked us to help them with this is a company called Handy. Well, what does Handy do? If you need a handyman, so to speak, around the house, they now have an app on their phone, and you can hit the app and they will come provide somebody for you for cleaning services, put up a cabinet, fix something that is broken. The purpose of the bill is, once again, not to change how we would affect that law in Georgia. It already exists. We simply are codifying it so it will be more simply read and understood, and we are taking that and applying it, in this case, only to online internet platform companies. Now, some of you have asked me the question, well, if this is a good idea, why don't we do it for all independent contractor law and employee law in the state of Georgia? That's a fair question. And that may be something that we need to think about doing, because it is one of those things that attorneys get hired and get a lot of money paid to them sometimes to try to figure out for companies, because lawsuits erupt about this. But the purpose of this bill is not to tackle that big subject, but just to this growing online internet-based companies. Mr. Speaker, that is basically what the bill does. It is not overly complicated. It's a good pro-business bill in Georgia that will help keep us the #1 state to do business and ask these internet-based platform companies to expand in the state of Georgia. Mr. Speaker, I would be happy to try to answer any questions anyone may have regarding the bill.
You do not appear to have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
We have members that wish to be heard on the bill. Chair recognizes Representative Kirby to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of House Bill 789. When we look at our independent contractors, there's really three main things we look at. Behavioral control. Do we control what they do, how they do it, when they do it? And if you look at the bill itself, it specifically says this app, this facilitator that's simply facilitating the relationship between somebody who needs help and somebody who can provide it. They don't tell them when to do it, where to do it, how to do it. They're not doing any behavior control. The second thing we look at as an independent contractor versus an employee is financial control. Again, the facilitator here is not involved in the profit or loss, setting the price. They're not involved in paying any expenses of that contractor going out there and doing that. So there's no financial control. And the third thing is that relationship between an employee and an employer, or a contractor and this facilitator. They're not supplying any benefits, no insurance for medical, dental, vision, no life insurance, no leave of absences, no burnt time off, not even any sick days, which we won't go there. As you read through the actual legislation and then read through the minority report, it's like they want you to believe that Angie is going to be liable for everybody on Angie's list, or Google is liable for everybody who puts their ad on a Google search. That's not the world we live in. This is simply an independent contractor that's working through a facilitator to get small businesses to the people that need them. And with that, I'll yield the well, Mr. Speaker.
We also have members that wish to be heard in opposition to the bill. Chair recognizes Representative McLean to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. You know, when I came to this well, I was watching Shaun White last night do the half pike, you know, and all of a sudden on TV, you know what came up? Home Advisor. You know, Home Advisor already have an app. An app's already out there. But let's talk about this bill. Let's talk about what this bill offers. This bill offers a new series of definitions for customers and digital network, marketplace, and contract and app platforms. I mean, this is something new, not something that we already have. Colleagues, I came to the well today to ask you all to vote no with me on HB 789 because HB 789 is a bill that's not ready, and even the author knows that because there were so many questions in the committee about 789 that at one time I thought it was going to fail in committee. You know, what this bill does is put a lot of regulations on an industry that does not need any regulations. It doesn't, I mean, in fact, for the past 5 years, the company he talked about, Handyman, they say they've been in existence since 2013, doing real well. So I just wonder why you would want to put additional regulation, government regulations, on the industry in Georgia did not even ask for any, but you want to do that for a company that came out of New York. I was hoping that hopefully a Georgia company would have asked for this, but why? Well, the digital marketplace or app, there is already case law. As he said, there is already case law. I'm not an attorney. A lot of you all know that, and don't want to be an attorney because you'll ask too many questions. But this was not a bill that the department asked for. The department did not ask for this bill. I want you all to know that the Department of Labor did not ask for this bill. This bill, you know, in fact, they kind of shun on this bill because this gives them extra work. This allows them to hire, now they've got to hire more investigators to deal with some kind of bill that's new. So what I want you all to realize is that why do we put a burden on a department that did not ask for this bill, but a group out of New York City? New York City. Just want to say that again, New York City. So all I'm saying is this bill is not ready, and it needs to go back to subcommittee. We need to have a study committee on something. But again, I would like for you all to realize one thing. We should not put the horse in front of the cart, but the cart should be behind the horse. So as he said earlier, he even said it himself, we need to codify all of independent contractors, not just some of them, but all of them. He said that, not I. So what I would like to say to all of you all is, I'm asking all of you all to vote no on 789, and do hope you can do the right thing for Georgia and the people and vote no on 789 because I have no idea what we're trying to do with this bill. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'll leave the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Turner to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to House Bill 789, and I'll be quick because this is, I want other people to be able to speak, but for 10 years or more, we've had digital marketplaces in Georgia. They've operated without regulation. They've operated successfully. They've operated without government recognition. They have disrupted the marketplace in ways that are positive for the consumer. This bill does not just codify case law. It does not just codify case law. It codifies a definition of marketplace platform for the first time. So if this bill were to fail, or actually let's talk about if this bill passes. If this bill passes, nothing changes. If this bill passes, nothing changes. No harm is done if this bill passes, right? That's what we're told. Or if it fails, there's no harm done. Let me start over. If this bill fails, nothing changes. We still have case law. We still have definitions. We still have everything set up. The free market has taken care of everything that needs to be regulated in this arena. There is no problem this bill will solve if it passes. But if it does pass, we are creating a potential regulatory framework on a free market principle that has been very successful in Georgia without us intervening. So I'm asking you, if you are a free marketer, to not intervene at this time and vote no on HB 789. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 789? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. We have a minority report on the bill, and for the minority report, the chair recognizes Representative Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in opposition to House Bill 789 because it raises concerns regarding vicarious liability and because it violates free market principles. While I applaud the author's intent to clarify the rules to bring certainty to the marketplace, this bill creates additional regulations that are not needed in a new marketplace that warrants greater scrutiny. House Bill 789 would define when a person working on or through a digital marketplace platform to provide services to an individual is an independent contractor. If classified as an independent contractor, the digital marketplace platform like Uber or Handy would not be liable for any action or inaction of the individual considered an independent contractor. This would allow the company and others like it to completely insulate or protect themselves from any liability resulting from any harm or damage that may be caused by the contractor to the consumer. So while the app or digital platform benefits from facilitating the meeting between the contractor and consumer, it takes no responsibility for any harm that may be caused. Responsibility for any harm falls on either the consumer or the contractor. In committee, an amendment was offered to the bill to require a digital marketplace platform of this kind to publicly disclaim any liability by allowing consumers to know their workers are independent contractors. The purpose of the amendment was to bring transparency and allow consumers to know they are responsible for the actions of a contractor they may use or invite into their home, and not the app or digital marketplace platform in which they found the contractor. This amendment was defeated in committee. There is additional concern as to whether contractors such as an electrician, a carpenter, or handyman who may use a digital app like Handy.com are properly licensed and insured. During committee, the general counsel of Handy.com, the primary supporter of this bill, testified they had a self-certification process for both. This is problematic, however, because if the contractor is not properly insured, Georgians and others who get a contractor from this app will be held fully liable for and responsible for any harm, whether they know it or not. To consider another possible scenario under the framework created by this piece of legislation, let's consider a babysitter app, which can say on their app that they guarantee their services. But they would have zero responsibility if a babysitter hired through this app, God forbid, molests a child. There are no protections whatsoever that would exist through this framework that's created. This bill has a potential to protect bad actors without recourse and harm Georgia families. These regulations are not needed. I believe in the principles of limited government and the self-regulating capacity of the free market. And based on these principles, I again urge my colleagues to vote no against this bill. HB 789 creates new rules and regulations in the digital marketplace that are not needed. The tech industry in Georgia has grown and thrived without these new rules and will continue to do so. Government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers, and if a company cannot grow in this state without additional protections to prevent it from being sued, based on the understanding that a free market is self-regulating, perhaps companies should not continue to expand in this state. This bill further has the potential to put thousands of service-providing small businesses in Georgia across the state at a significant disadvantage to the handful of companies who have asked for this no accountability bill. Now, if there is a need to bring certainty to the digital marketplace, we can codify existing case law that differentiates between an independent contractor and an employee, rather than creating one set of rules for a certain industry that does not apply to another. These kinds of loopholes will do nothing but add confusion to the marketplace rather than certainty. Lastly, I believe additional time is needed to study and examine House Bill 789 and its long-term impact. As technological innovation continues to disrupt traditional means of doing business, this has created new challenges, such as the displacement of blue-collar jobs through automation. It is estimated that by 2020, 40% of America's workforce will be independent contractors or freelancers. While this creates flexibility and the right to work, the responsibility of paying for health care, retirement, and all other benefits falls solely on Georgia families who are independent contractors. Georgia's middle-class families are already being squeezed. As the cost of health insurance and college tuition rises while wages remain stagnant, this bill does nothing to alleviate the difficulties Georgia's middle class faces. Now, I support efforts to ensure Georgia remains the #1 state to do business, and I understand that requires at times to modify our laws to sustain a business-friendly environment. However, keeping our state attractive to businesses in the long run, especially as we move towards a knowledge-based economy, will require developing a healthy, educated, and highly skilled workforce. And to do that, we need to invest in our state's most important resource, and that's its people, those we were elected to serve. And House Bill 789 does not do that. So for all of these reasons, I urge my colleagues today to vote no to House Bill 89. With that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield for any questions.
You do have a question if you care to yield.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Carpenter to your right for a question.
Does the Speaker yield?
I yield.
Is it not true that somebody from your party actually spoke in support of this bill in our committee?
That is true.
No further questions.
You have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, I yield the will.
For the chairman's time, Chair recognizes the chair of the Industry and Labor Committee, Chairman Werkheiser.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have good news for you. I do not have long remarks because I just really wanted to go through the minority report and just point out some inaccuracies. The fact that it would relieve liability from the actual contractor could not be any further than the truth. In fact, that's the whole purpose of defining who is a contractor and who's an independent worker. The idea that we don't need to address this and just let the free market keep going, it's no different than the reason we addressed legislation last year and the year before regarding Uber, which was new technology and in fact an entire idea that did not exist, and that offered consumer protection as well as protection for the workers by adding some insurance clarification. I also want to address the idea that it says that it would not allow the company and others to protect themselves from any liability. Actually, there is a level of protection in that when you sign up for the app as a contractor, you do have to submit certificates of insurance of liability. This is far different than if you choose to, let's say you find somebody in the Yellow Pages that advertises themselves as a service. There is no certificate of insurance. So as these marketplace and application companies keep growing, I do think we need to address these issues. I will agree at the very end of the minority report says that there is a need to address this overall to codify, because as the author of the bill said at the very beginning, we keep having to go back to case law to solve each of these matters on an individual basis, and this would make it easier and a lot more expedient
And I also want to correct the statement that when asked in committee, Commissioner Butler said it would not add any additional regulations or any additional effort at all from any member of his staff or those under his control. So with that, Mr. Speaker, if it's okay, I would like to yield the rest of my time to the author of the bill.
Chairman has yielded the balance of his time to the author of the bill. Chair recognizes Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be brief. The Labor Commissioner did come to the hearing, as it was said, but he did not speak in opposition to the bill. In fact, he said favorable things about it. And he texted me just a minute ago and wanted me to make sure that you understood that. I told him I would. Somebody told me while I was sitting down there, he said, Barry, you know, you got a lot of gray hair in that beard. You need to explain to your fellow colleagues that have similar color hair that all this is used to be we looked in the yellow pages when we wanted to find somebody to do something for us. Today's version of the yellow pages is this right here, and it exists with an app that you touch. And all this bill does is it takes a bunch of case law which defines the relationship between you and the company that runs that app you touched, and it takes it and puts it very clearly into statute. Now, why would some people be opposed to clarifying that law? Well, if you give me about 20 cases, I can find some comma in there that a judge put that might throw doubt onto the relationship between that app company and the services that they did for me. Georgia is the #1 place to do business in this nation because we constantly update and clarify that our laws are clear, and if you come here and do business, this is the one that you'll live under. One of the most interesting bills I've been involved in is one I helped Representative Trey Kelly with a couple of years ago. Maybe it was last session, where we started preparing our laws for something called automated driving vehicles. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of service delivery in our state is going to be through internet-based companies. This bill simply says to them, here's our law, it's very clear now, come do business in Georgia. Please help me today to support that effort and vote yes for House Bill 789.
Previous question has already been ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute on House Bill 789? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 789 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 789. The ayes are 102. The nays are 66. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
commending the nation of Israel for its cordial, mutually beneficial relationship with the United States and state of Georgia, recognizing and commending Miss Dorothy Dot Paget for being a pillar of her community, commending and congratulating Riley Luckman, recognizing October 21st, 2018, the Sweet Auburn Bread Company Day at the state capitol, recognizing February 19, 2018 as Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated Day at the state capitol, honoring the life and memory of Richard Ellis Craig Sr., recognizing and commending Reverend Kimberly S. Jackson, recognizing and commending Carrie Kiwiak, commending the Calhoun High School drama team for winning the GHSA 3A state competition for Act 1. Commending the Calhoun High School Lady Jacket softball team for winning the 2017 Class 3A state championship. Commending the Calhoun High School Yellow Jackets football team for winning the 2017 Class 3A state championship. Commending and congratulating Don Calvert Cal Ray on the occasion of his announced retirement. Recognizing and commending Pride School Atlanta Incorporated. Recognizing and commending Dr. Bettina L. Love on her myriad impressive academic accomplishments, recognizing and commending Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base, recognizing and commending RMD Primary Care, commending and congratulating the Honorable Craig Newton upon his election as the first African-American mayor in Gwinnett County, commending the Georgia chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, and recognizing February 27, 2018 is Alzheimer's Awareness Day at the state capitol, recognizing and commending the Latin American Association, recognizing and honoring Vita Brooks for her outstanding public service, commending the University System of Georgia Outstanding Scholars on Academic Recognition Day for 2018, recognizing and commending Skylar Huggett, recognizing and commending Jonathan Swinsburg, commending and congratulating the Honorable Ray Martinez upon his election as the first Hispanic mayor in Gwinnett County, recognizing March 7, 2018 as Children's Day at the state capitol, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolution.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. All right, we're still got a little business to get done, so House will come to order. For what purpose does Chairman Houston rise?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
I'd like for House Bill 844 to be moved from Health and Human Services to Education, and I've talked with both chairmen, and it's fine with them.
Chairman Houston has moved that House Bill 844 be withdrawn from the Health and Human Services Committee and recommitted to the Education Committee. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 844 by Representative Houston of the 170th and others to be titled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 30 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to handicapped persons generally so as to revise provisions relating to the Georgia Commission on Hearing Impaired and Deaf Persons.
On the lady's motion that House Bill 844 be withdrawn from the Health and Human Services Committee and recommitted to the Education Committee, is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. For what purpose does Chairman Maxwell rise?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
I would like to move Senate Bill 333 from Governmental Affairs to the Retirement Committee. Both chairmen have agreed, and I think the bill should be down at the desk now.
Chairman Maxwell has moved that Senate Bill 333 be withdrawn from the Governmental Affairs Committee and recommitted to the Retirement Committee. The clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 333 by Senator Black of the 8th and others to be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 18 and Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to deferred compensation plans.
On the gentleman's motion that Senate Bill 333 be withdrawn from the Governmental Affairs Committee and recommitted to the Retirement Committee, is there any objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. What purpose does Chairman Shaw rise?
To make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
I move that the House Bill 843 be moved from the Committee on Ways and Means to the Committee on Economic Development and Tourism. Both chairmen are in agreement.
Chairman Shaw has moved that House Bill 843 be withdrawn from the Ways and Means Committee and recommitted to the Economic Development and Tourism Committee. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 843 by Representative Shaw, the 176 and others, to be titled an act to amend Code Section 48-7-40.1 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to tax credits for business enterprises in less development areas.
On the gentleman's motion that House Bill 843 be withdrawn from the Ways and Means Committee and recommitted to the Economic Development Committee, is there objection? Chair hears none. It is so ordered. What purpose does Representative Caldwell rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that the rules be temporarily suspended so that a bill may be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Caldwell of the 111th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to driver's licenses so as to allow the Department of Driver Services to mark and return surrendered license and personal identification cards.
On the gentleman's motion that the rules of the House be temporarily suspended so a bill can be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Motor vehicles. What purpose does Representative Kendrick rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that House Resolution 1036 be transferred from the Committee on Science and Technology to the Committee on Education, and both chairs here agreed.
Representative Kendrick has moved that House Resolution 1036 be withdrawn from the Science and Technology Committee and recommitted to the Education Committee. The clerk will read the caption.
House Resolution number 1036 by Representative Kendrick of the 93rd and others, a resolution urging the state of Georgia to fund public awareness campaign in support of computer science education.
On the lady's motion that House Resolution 1036 be withdrawn from the Science and Technology Committee and recommitted to the Education Committee, is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. If you've signed up for an announcement, make your way to the front of the chamber. And while they're coming down, Chair wants to make recognition of the fact that not only is it Valentine's Day, but we have a birthday Valentine. Happy birthday to Chairman Tom McCall. Chair recognizes Chairman Battles for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Retirement Committee will be meeting today at 2 in room 515, and we have an important bill to get out today.
Chair recognizes Chairman Reinders for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 1 o'clock or upon adjournment, we'll go with the 1 o'clock. Governmental Affairs will be meeting in 406, and that's the State Government Subcommittee first. All officios, please, or ex-officios, please attend that. And we'll go into full committee as soon as we're done with the sub. 406, Governmental Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Smith for an announcement. Lynn Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, the Natural Resource and Environment Committee will meet, taking up House Bill 785. Once that action is completed, we adjourn, and then Environmental Quality will have its subcommittee meeting in the same room to discuss House Bill 332. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Erica Thomas for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minority Caucus will be meeting in 216 at 8 a.m. Again, we'll be meeting at 216 at 8 a.m. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Watson for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Rural Caucus will meet immediately upon adjournment, and the Ag Chairman has been gracious enough to delay his meeting till 1:30, so we've got time to eat. We've got Jimmy Lewis with Hometown Health. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the members of the Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight Committee, we will not meet. We had been scheduled 2 o'clock today. We will not meet today. Just wanted to let everybody know.
Chair recognizes Representative Reeves for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Reeves Subcommittee of Judiciary Non-Civil will meet at 1 o'clock in room 132 at the Capitol, so that's just in a few minutes. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the birthday boy, Chairman McCall, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since most of the Ag Committee is Rural Caucus members, we're going to back the Ag Committee meeting off to 1:30 and give everybody a chance to go eat something so they'll be happy. And thank y'all for the birthday wishes.
Chair recognizes Representative Scott for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The GLBC will be meeting at 4 o'clock today in room 605. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Welch for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Public Safety Subcommittee on Appropriations will be meeting at 4 o'clock in 4 o'clock and 406 CLOB. So 4 o'clock, 406 CLOB.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler for an announcement.
The Setzler Subcommittee of Judiciary Non-Civil will meet upon adjournment of the Reeves Subcommittee, immediately upon adjournment of the Reeves Subcommittee in room 132.
That completes the announcements. The chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move this House stand in recess until 4 p.m. today, and then stand adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow, Thursday, February 15th, 2018.
The Majority Leader has moved that the House be in recess until 4 o'clock p.m. today, whereupon we would stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday, February 15th. All those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The ayes clearly have it. This House will be in recess until 4 o'clock p.m., whereupon we will stand adjourned until Thursday at 10 a.m.